debt, fear, relationships, the children, your health, work. When you want to give up and you need courage to continue, take heart and stay tuned as RJ Jackson writes her signature message of hope on your heart. You don't have to live where you're dying, and you don't have to die where you're living. Like every show of Conversations on Courage, you'll be informed, inspired, and encouraged to find the courage you need to succeed at home, work, and in your business. Get your pen and paper. You'll want to take notes. And now, your host, RJ Jackson, the Courage Giver.
Hello, beautiful. I'm your friend, RJ Jackson, your master encourager, accountability coach, speaker for your next event, and your down-to-earth, I'm listening, tell it like it is, I love you, girl, friend. Yep, that's me. Welcome to the conversation. This is a show for women who dare to be bold and courageous, women who live life unapologetically. This is a show where you can find the courage you need in order to succeed. This is episode 1 of Conversations on Courage. It's the one you'll want to listen to over and over again. It's the one you'll share with your friends. Matter of fact, go ahead. Why don't you do that right now? Why don't you show your sister friend that you care about her and you want her to succeed? Go ahead and share the show by hitting the share button right now. After all, sharing is caring. On today's show, we promise to fill your cup with courage one sip at a time. We're going to provide you with success strategies, inspiration, and purposeful conversation. What else are we going to do while we're together? Well, we're going to respond to your questions. You know, the ones you had the courage to ask out loud on our Facebook group. Girl, I'm working on it too. Oh, and by the way, if you're new and you're not a part of our group, we invite you to join us today on Facebook, where you will find a safe place to be you, authentically you, and meaningful relationships with women just like you. We'll also share in your story, and we will provide you with a life-giving experience. So on today's episode, I get to introduce RJ Jackson, the Courage Giver. Oh, wait, that's me. It's the first of the month, and on the first of the month, I get to spend a little bit of time allowing you to get to know me. And here's an inspiring word on gratitude to get us started.
Aren't you grateful for today, regardless of what it brings? Aren't you glad that you have an opportunity to be in the land of the living? I know I am. And I trust that God will be God in everything that I'm going to be faced with today. You should trust Him too. If you do trust Him, here's what I want you to do. Dance like nobody's watching. Love like you've never been hurt. Sing like there's nobody listening. And live like it's heaven on earth. In other words, live like it's your last day. Because it might very well be. Tell the people you love that you love them, and do the things that matter most. And those things always involve people. Take some time to call somebody today that you're thinking about, that you haven't spoke to in a long time. Laugh. Enjoy the moment. Live life on purpose. Enough said. Courage is required.
You're listening to Conversations on Courage with your host, RJ Jackson, the Courage Giver. Quick, call your friends and invite them to listen in.
Life is about perception. It's about how we see it. And typically how we see it is from our experience, our education, and our values. So on this episode, I am going to use my courage and answer the questions that you have had the courage to ask. So this week we have 3 questions that I'm going to address, and I just want you to keep in mind there's no right or wrong answer unless the question is about me. Otherwise, I'm sharing my opinion, and I encourage you to use your courage to share yours as well. Keep in mind when we share our opinion, it doesn't give us the right to put other people down or make other people feel less than who they are to make us look right, seem right, or look better. So our first question comes from A.B. from Georgia. A.B., thank you for using your courage to ask the following question. How can I, as an African-American mother with 3 sons, overcome feelings of frustration, anger, and fear due to the current situation in this country, America, between the police and our community? I don't want to hate or alienate, but what I see on the news is only negative reflections of this country. And sometimes I think about leaving this country. Well, A.B., this is a loaded question, and I'm just going to break it down and chew it up really well here on Conversations of Courage as we sit at the table and discuss what's going on in our world. As an African-American mother of 3 sons, I'm not sure if that means you're a single mom or you're married, but 3 sons for a mother, congratulations to you. Let's talk about your feelings, because we all have feelings, and our feelings change, don't they? So let's look at the feelings that you're expressing in your questions, the feeling of frustration, anger, and fear. And those are all feelings that keep us paralyzed and in prison all by themselves. Whether something happens or not, we are in prison due to those feelings. The feeling of frustration really is not getting what we want. Anger, which is acceptable, it's not if we're angry or not, it's what we do with that feeling of anger. And keep in mind, for every 60 seconds you're angry, you're losing a minute of happiness. Fear, which robs us, paralyzes us. And, of course, we attract what we fear the most, right? So let's look at how we can actually change those feelings, even dealing with the current situation in our country between the police and our community. Something else you mentioned that was very important is you said when you watch the news, you only see negative reflections. Absolutely. That's the plot of the 5 men who decide what we're going to watch every day. And a part of that plot is to keep you living in fear. I mean, why else would they insist on sharing the hype and sensationalism? Well, I'll tell you why, from my opinion, my perspective, because it sells and it scares. And if it sells and it scares, then we will continue to buy things that we don't need, to please people that we don't know. And if it scares us, it'll keep us in our community, avoiding the opportunity to explore much more of what God has in store for us. So, yeah, it's just designed that way to me. So the thing is, we have an option to watch the news or not. And I'm not telling you if you should or you shouldn't. I'm just answering the question. And I say, personally, I don't have time to watch the news. And I know people are saying, well, okay, how do you know what's going on? Oh, don't worry, you'll tell me. seriously, somebody will always tell me what's going on, and it will be their perception. Just like the news, it's their perception. And so the only difference is you get to see the perception over and over and over in color when you watch the news. Why bother? If you don't want to be frustrated and angry and fearful, why bother? Now, it's true, we need to know what's going on. And sometimes just reading the article in the newspaper or online will suffice and tell you what's going on. Or hear it from someone else, and then when you hear it, pray about it. It doesn't mean that you don't care about what's going on. It doesn't mean you don't take action on the situation in the way that you can take action. It just means you simply don't dwell on the negativity. And that's important. And we get caught up in stuff like that. Finally, AB, you mentioned, hey, sometimes I just want to leave this country. Yeah, that's the typical thing for us to want to get away from what's not right. I believe God wants us to press into what's not right. Instead of running from it, press into it. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. And certainly it's true, you can't solve the whole world, but you can do, we can do, I can do what God's called us to do, so that in our realm of our responsibility, we're taking care of what we can. We're making a dent and a difference in how we can. So I just want to encourage you to see how you can get involved to make a difference. One of the ways I personally got involved with the police is I joined the team. Yeah, so I've been serving for about 12 years now as a police volunteer, and I get to see from the inside out what's really going on, not what the news says that's going on. I get to pray for them as a chaplain. I get to pray and cover them and help them to know that they're people too, and they have a lot of stress on them. Now, what is wrong, and I don't stand for what's wrong, but the news is always going to show us what's wrong and not necessarily what's right. And I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm not saying there's not police brutality. It is. It's happening. It's happening. And it should not be happening. Keep this in mind, however. Hurt people hurt people. And no matter where you go, whether you're in this country or another country, there are people who are hurting, and hurt people hurt people. It's not a job. It's not a career. It's not a title that's the problem. It's sin itself that's the problem. And sin resides in our heart. And when sin resides in our heart, we do things that is not only not pleasing to God, but it hurts other people. Where are you going to go, girl? Because listen, everywhere we go, there's something wrong. There are people who are hurting, who are sinful. So ask God how you can be a difference in this situation right here in your country. I mean, think about it. People are jumping borders to come to this country. And as a person who's been out of the country and been to several countries, we're blessed in America. Yeah, there's a lot that shouldn't be happening that's happening, but we are blessed. So I say thank you so much for your courage to ask your question, and I want you to remember that God is our shelter. Psalm 91:1 tells us and reminds us that He's our ever-present help in the time of need, and that's where we run to. That's where we run to when we need answers, when we need help, and when we need solutions. So thank you again, AB from Georgia, for your question. I certainly appreciate it and love the opportunity to share my perception and allow you to get to know me from the inside out just a little bit better.
Are you an author, coach, or speaker? If so, Worldwide Women Speakers is your place to connect. We provide you with the REST, resources, exposure, support, and tools you need to succeed. If you love seeing lives transformed and have a message for women, we invite you to join the Worldwide Women Speakers Dream Team. Head over to worldwidewomenspeakers.com. and complete an application today.
While most of our questions come from our Facebook group, girl, I'm working on it too. This next question comes from my Facebook page, and it is from Brad in California. Brad's question says, "Hey, RJ, we had class together in seminary. Looking back on your ministry since then, what was the best lesson you took away from your educational experience?" Yes, Brad, seminary. All right, so lots of lessons learned there. First lesson. I know you said the best, but there's so many. I just got to give you a couple. So the first lesson I learned is when God tells you to do something, do it. Do it. It was a time in my life after being out of school for 25 years. God said, now is the time, go back. And it's funny because I had always wanted to go back and pursue my master's. It had been on my vision board for years, but it was never the right time. Then one day God just said, now. And I listened. And I called the school and I said, hey, I would like to sign up. And I was told, sorry, registration ended Friday. And I was like, oh, it's Monday. Okay, so I get it. However, I need to register because I know this is what I'm supposed to do. And the young lady who answered the phone proceeded to tell me, sorry, it's closed. And I just continued to say, no, it can't be. I have got to get in because this is what I'm supposed to do. And so after a conversation, she said, okay, I'll tell you what, if you can get everything into me by tomorrow, now remember, it's Monday, tomorrow's Tuesday, right? She said, if you can get everything into me by Tuesday, tomorrow, then I will accept your application. I said, great, all right, send it over. And as she prepared to send it over, she felt led to tell me, oh, and it includes an 8-page paper. Ay, 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 porrito bandito. Cool. Let's go, because this is what I've been called to do. And so I did. I submitted the application, and I was accepted. Oh, and by the way, the registration fee was due, and I did not have any money. So I convinced her to let me pay it on the first day of class. And on the first day of class in the morning, I spoke for a company, an educational company from Northern California. They paid me that morning. And the check, I promise you, was the exact amount that I needed for the registration. Bam. There you go. When God says so, he will make provision for the vision. Just do what he told you to do. Just do what he told you. Just do what he told you. Just do what he told you to do. Somebody right now, you need to do what God's telling you to do. You're scared. You're talking about you don't have no money. Come on, honey. Just do what God told you to do. And then, Brad, to continue to answer your question, I remember hearing my pastor, Pastor Dan Carroll of Water of Life Community Church, say one day he has 2 PhDs. And it's not because he is so smart, but it was because he stayed in the seat. And that became very powerful in my life. School was not easy after 25 years, not able to really see the books, read the books because of my vision problem, but I stayed in the seat. And that was a very valuable lesson that I got to implement in my own journey. When wise people talk, listen. And at the right time, when you need what they said, it will take place in your life if you're willing to listen. So watching that unfold, walking across the stage after less than 18 months and receiving my master's in practical theology and pastoral counseling was an experience of a lifetime because I stayed in the seat, not because I was so smart, but because I stayed in the seat. And here's the greatest lesson. And here's the greatest lesson of all, Brad. I learned that you don't have to get all the information. You don't have to know all the information. The A's are not important. What's important is the one lesson that God wants you to learn in the experience of it all that will help you live life on purpose and help someone else find hope and possibility. The one lesson. Because trust me, you won't remember it all anyway. But if you can remember the one thing that impacted your life, and it may not even come from a textbook, it may come from a classmate, it may come from your instructor, and it may come from a textbook. But what's the one lesson that you learn in any experience that will propel you into who God has called you to be? And that was the greatest lesson for me. And that lesson was people matter. That it's about people. And I got to take that lesson, Brad, and immediately after graduating go to Thailand, Cambodia, Nigeria, Kenya, to remind people that they matter. And that's what I want to remind you today. If you're listening, I want you to know that your life matters. You're not an accident. You're not your situation. You're not your circumstances. You are who God created you to be. While you were in your mother's womb, He formed you for greatness. Show up today because the world awaits your greatness. Brad, thank you so much for that question that allowed me to share a little bit of my heart and let you know, who is this RJ girl anyway? When you learn, teach. And for successful people, school is never out. Thank you again, Brad, for that awesome question that allowed me to share with you insight from the inside out of R.J. Jackson, the Courage Giver.
Have the cares of this life seemingly choked the life out of you? Are you wanting or needing to start over after being hit hard in life? If so, R.J. Jackson, the Courage Giver, wants you to know that you are not alone and help is here. This is your season, and it's time for you to get up, get dressed, and show up. The good news is, you do not have to do it alone. Like you, R.J. Jackson knows what it's like to have been knocked down over and over again. And R.J. believes that life is not about how many times we get knocked down, but how many times we get back up. Reach out to R.J. today at 1-877-235-0307, extension 909. She is waiting to encourage your heart and help lift you up.
Our final question is from Nicole of New York. And Nicole says, RJ, how can we get this world back from being so commercialized? Nicole, that's a great question, especially at this time of year. It's a season of Thanksgiving. And during this season of Thanksgiving, it's almost as if we skipped right over it. If you go into the stores, and all of a sudden Christmas is like, bam, right there in your face, right? So how can we get this world back from being commercialized? My perception, we can't. We simply have to decide to go forward and then ask ourselves, what can I do personally to keep the main thing the main thing? And you have to know what your main thing is. Let me give you an example. Recently, my daughter and my granddaughters and I decided to go out for a walk after having a delicious vegan meal. I have to say that. I had to throw that in. But we decided to go to Target just to walk around in the inside. Now, I hadn't been to Target, I promise you, in about 2 years. And that's because I don't, number one, typically go to the store unless I need something. And two, I've been having to have other people actually go to the store for me a lot since the accident. So we went to the store to walk around, and I promise you it felt so good that after being in the store for over an hour, the four of us walked out of that store without purchasing a thing, nothing, nada. We did not buy anything. Matter of fact, part of the conversation while we were in the store went a little bit like this. Wow, look at all this stuff. You know, at the end of the day, it really is just junk. It's stuff that we put on our shelves to dust off, to only complain that we don't have enough time to do X, Y, and Z because we have to clean our stuff. We have to organize our stuff. We have to put our stuff away. Why? Why buy it? Typically, we buy things with money we haven't yet earned to please people we don't know, and some of them don't even like us. Half of them won't even come to our house to see what it is anyway. So why do we do that? It's not about the world being commercialized. It's about us as individuals being commercialized. It's our mindset. And I think one of the best ways, Nicole, to change our mindset is to do missions. If you want to really see how blessed we are and that we have more than enough and we have enough to share and we don't have to continue to buy, do a mission trip. Because once you do a missions trip and you go to another country, a third world country, and you see the gratitude they have for bringing them a bottle of bubbles, for giving them a pencil to write with, a crayon to color with, food to eat, you realize we have more stuff than we need. And it really is just stuff. When you get to love on people and play with children who are in orphanages, you realize that stuff don't bring you happiness. So the only way to get the world back is to literally go forward and to make a decision that we're not going to buy the stuff. We're not going to fall into the hype of we have to have, and we need more. And that's an individual responsibility. You know, they say money talks, and I kind of agree. But the thing is, most of our money is talking and saying goodbye to us before we even get to know it, because we're spending it and we're buying things we don't need and that at the end of the day have very little value at all. Just like in the store, we bring it home to sit on the shelf. So that's what I say about it. Decide individually what's important and go from there. All righty. That was a question from Nicole from New York. So, Nicole, thank you. Thank you to everyone. I was unable to get to all of the questions, but I promise you that we will do our best to integrate them on each episode and let people know that what you feel, what you're thinking, the questions you have, they're important to us, and we'd love to share insight and inspiration. We grow from the questions we ask. So here's a question for you. Are you living your best life ever? And are you grateful? Do you spend more time at the complaint counter or the compliment counter? This is a season to be grateful for what you have and who you are. Always remember, God has a plan for your life. Yes, life might be tough right now, But you're not alone. If you need someone to talk to or someone to speak at your next event, contact me today, R.J. Jackson, the Courage Giver. It would be my pleasure to speak life into your life. Join us again next week here on Conversations on Courage, where we serve a delicious meal to help you grow. If you enjoyed the broadcast, don't keep it to yourself. Be sure to leave a comment. Give us a review on Yelp, iTunes, and even iHeart. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest, we'd love to talk to you. Visit us today at www.conversationsoncourage.com. That's conversationsoncourage.com.
Thank you for joining us for Conversations on Courage. Now that you've been inspired, informed, and encouraged, it's time for you to take action. So head on over to thecouragegiver.com. That's thecouragegiver.com and connect with RJ for a personal conversation on courage. She's waiting to help you take the risk you need to succeed.